Hi, I'm Barry, the medical trader. Around here, we believe discipline creates freedom. I teach calm, step-by-step trading so you don't feel rushed, confused, or pressured. In today's episode, we're going to walk through credit spreads and debit spreads so you can understand what you're doing before you risk real money. Today, you'll learn four main things. First, what an option spread actually is. Second, the difference between credit spreads and debit spreads. Third, the basic risk and reward for each type of spread. And finally, when I like to use defined risk spreads in my own trading. This is just an introduction, not Signal's video. The goal is to help you understand the tool. So what is a spread? A spread is simply using two options together on the same stock. They share the same expiration date, but they use different strike prices. With one of those options, you're buying a contract. With the other, you're selling a contract. When you combine them, you create defined risk and defined potential profit. In other words, you know your worst case loss and your best case gain before you even place the trade. A credit spread means you're paid money up front. When you open the trade, you collect a credit. That's your potential profit. With a credit spread, your main goal is simple. You want the spread to expire worthless so you get to keep the credit. The trade has limited max profit, the credit you received, and a limited max loss, which you know before you enter the trade. And you can build credit spreads with calls or puts to express a bullish, bearish, or even mostly sideways view. As long as the price stays in your safe zone, by the expiration, you keep the credit. Now, let's look at a debit spread. With a debit spread, you pay money up front when you open the trade. That's your debit. Here, you actually want the stock to move in your chosen direction. So if it's a bullish debit spread, you want the price to go up. If it's bearish, you want it to go down. Your maximum loss is limited to the debit you paid, and your maximum profit is also capped by the distance between the strikes. Traders often use debit spreads instead of buying a single, more expensive option because it can lower the cost and still give you a defined risk way to express a bullish or bearish idea. We're on Robinhood. I'm going to give you the demonstration of how to put the orders in for the credit spread and the debit spread. So we're on our home page. The market's closed, but we can still do the demonstration. We're going to use SPY. The reason I'm using SPY is it has a huge volume, so you never have to worry about the volume on SPY. So we're going to open the option chain, and then we're going to start with a put credit spread first. So we're going to make sure this is on put. We're going to check the expiration. SPY has daily expirations. We'll just choose today to make it simple. And then with the credit spread, you're collecting a credit. The theory is today that SPY's on an uptrend. The trend is our friend. We don't want to go against the trend. So we're going to put our put credit spread below, thinking that SPY's either going to stay at this price, move up a little bit, move up a lot, or just slightly move down. So we'll put it underneath. And as long as this expires worthless, you're going to collect the credit. Also, too, you don't have to wait for it to expire. With these option contracts, you can close them at any time. So for example, if you sold this put credit spread, SPY made a huge move early, maybe you're up 75% on the contract, you could take that profit early. So now we'll do the demonstration. So the way you collect the profit is the difference between these strikes. We're going to sell one and we're going to buy one. First we're going to sell this one here. You can see the ticket, it's a sell, short put. Then we're going to switch this, buy this one, and then you can see it says put credit spread. We're receiving a credit. One we're selling, one we're buying. We're getting the difference between the two. Expected profit and loss. The most you can make is the credit we received. The most you can lose is $153. The reason it's high is this is such a high percentage trade. On average, it's about an 80% win rate. It's because we're picking so far beneath the at-the-money price. And that's how you would set up a put credit spread. You would just hit continue, and then you would know what your profit and defined risk would be. Now we'll do the opposite. So we're going to go back home. We're going to use SPY again, for example. And this time, we're going to buy it. So this will be a debit spread. We're going to open the option chain. It's going to be the same thesis. We're going to think SPY is going to move up. So we're going to have these on calls. And then here's at the money line. So our same thesis, but with a debit spread, you need the price to move. So we want SPY to move at least past where we're going to choose our strike prices. So the first thing we're going to do is buy this one. Then we're going to come over and sell the one above it. And now you can see it says call debit spread. It's going to cost us $50. SPY would have to move over this to collect the $50, but the most you can lose, or it would be $50 also. So it's like a 1-for-1 trade. And the advantage to this trade is you wouldn't have to pay the full money to buy one of these calls to have this price move up to make the profit. And that's how you open a credit spread and a debit spread. Now we'll go back to the slides and discuss a little more about this. That was our demonstration on how to open debit and credit spreads. Here's why I like defined risk spreads. First, I know my maximum loss before I ever click submit. There's a hard ceiling on how wrong the trade can go. Second, I don't need a huge move in the stock. Often just staying inside my range is enough for the credit spread to work. Third, because the risk is capped, I can often use smaller position sizes and still make the trade meaningful. And finally, this fits my Alara mindset. Risk as low as reasonably achievable. I'd rather take controlled, repeatable trades than swing for the fences and stress out my nervous system. Let's finish with a few key spread reminders. First, always double check that you're on calls or puts, your strike prices, and the expiration date before you hit submit. Second, write down your max loss and max possible profit so you're not guessing once the trade is open. Third, avoid doing spreads on very thin or illiquid names. That's why I chose SPY today. Getting in is easy. Getting out can be painful if you choose one that's not very liquid. And finally, remember, spreads are just tools. Your plan, your position size, and your discipline still matter more than any single strategy. If you have any questions about today's lesson on credit and debit spreads, please leave a comment below. I read every comment myself, and I'm happy to clarify anything that feels confusing or walk you through another example with you. In our next episode, we're going to slow things down and talk more about risk the way I think about it in real life and trading, keeping it as low as reasonably achievable while still giving your trades room to breathe. We'll connect with that Alara mindset directly to how you size positions and choose strategies. For now, let's pause and step into our moment of calm. Today's quote is from Warren Buffett. Risk comes from not knowing what you're doing. I love this because it reminds us that the goal isn't to avoid the market, it is to understand it well enough that your risks are deliberate, sized correctly, and never random. The more clearly you know what you're doing, the calmer you will trade.